if Zach Wilson was at my family's Thanksgiving table after the weekend he had, we might be saying, hey, Zach, here, help yourself to all this dark meat. And here, have the drumstick. It's really good. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I watched a good chunk of that game, and Zach Wilson was awful. I'll tell you, the thing I don't really like right now about Zach Wilson, last week, I mean, first of all, he has not played well, period.
Mm-hmm.
And last week, he had a quote that got some run here in New York. I live in Brooklyn. And the quote was, and I'm going to paraphrase, I'm not worried about anybody outside of the building. They don't know what we're doing. They don't know it. They don't know us. They don't know. They really don't know football. Okay? And I just think that's a dumb thing to say. And then after you play a nightmarish game, which Zach Wilson played, okay, 2 total yards in the second half in Foxborough. And after you play a nightmarish game and a reporter asks a valid question, geez, your defense only gave up 3 points all day today. Don't you kind of feel bad? And don't you feel like you maybe owe something to the defense? No. I mean, and, you know, when I heard that, because I heard it live, I was watching a lot of their press stuff after the game, and I heard that, and I said, man, that's not going to age well. And sure enough, Mark Cannizzaro on Twitter, longtime Jets authority, writer for the New York Post, basically said he's in big trouble in his locker room. This was like by 11 o'clock that night, and I know Cannizzaro's got sources. So I said, man, this is going to be ugly. So what do you think? How do you think, A, the Jets should handle Zach Wilson, and how should Zach Wilson handle this situation he's in right now?
You know, Peter, it's just a stunning lack of maturity out of somebody who is supposed to be a franchise quarterback. And I think about this a lot. Quarterbacks right now are a lot constructed. You know, they are built up to be guys that can potentially go to the NFL. You think about all these passing camps and academies and this and that. These guys understand how it is that perception, almost reality in some ways. So they know how to answer questions. And so in 2022, when you are 9 of 22 for I think 77 yards was his final line. Come on, you're not playing well enough. And that question, because I listened to the press conference too, and I believe it was basically, do you feel like the offense let the defense down? It wasn't even, do you personally, as the quarterback, feel like you let them down? He said no. And what do you mean no? You scored 3 points. It's 2022. I mean, what are we doing here? You know, this is not Otto Graham, you know, with Paul Brown. And no, you score 3 points, you're going to lose. And if your defense only allows 3 points, you should win. Defense was great. And, you know, we can talk about how bad the Patriots offense is, but you still have to go out there and execute and prevent them from scoring. And so if you say things like that and you're at the podium and you're like, no, offense didn't do anything. And then you got Garrett Wilson in the locker room saying the things that the quarterback should be saying. This is not okay. This will not stand. We have to be better. We have to be more detailed. We have to do this and that. That's what you want your quarterback to say, because that's the leadership, right? And when you don't have that, you don't have that maturity to just stand up there and take the arrows. Some might say, like, that's not good enough. It's just not.
And you know, the other thing I found myself thinking, Miles, is not just, I think this isn't just simply a reaction to how he played, but it's a reaction to how the defense is playing. And Robert Saleh said after the game, I'm not even thinking about making a quarterback change. I mean, if I were C.J. Mosley, Quinnen Williams, maybe a couple of the veteran defensive guys on that team, I'd see if I could have a quick meeting with Robert Saleh. Maybe even, you know, a Zoom meeting on Tuesday and just saying, hey, coach, listen, we're not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but, you know, you can't expect us to continue to go out and support our quarterback when it's like he's in third grade trying to teach a pre-law class at Harvard. It just can't happen, So I think Robert Saleh honestly owes it to his team to start Mike White. Mike White had that incredible game against the Bengals last year when the Jets shocked the Bengals and he threw for over 400 yards. I just think this team needs something new, especially because it's a playoff defense. This team could go on the road in the playoffs with that defense and win or lose 13-10. I just, I've watched enough of that defense in the first 11 weeks of this year to know how good they are. But, okay, so enough of Zach Wilson. I want to go to the other guy who I think more than anybody else right now in the coaching fraternity is under pressure, and that's obviously Nathaniel Hackett. And obviously they bring in Jerry Rossberg in week 3, and since they were 1-1 when they brought him in, and they've had almost nothing but failure since. And then this week they changed the play caller to Clint Kubiak. They had some productivity on offense, but still, same thing. 32nd scoring offense in football. Imagine you bring in a guy who was one of Aaron Rodgers' tutors, very imaginative coach, and you bring in a new quarterback who led his team to the playoffs in 8 of 10 years in Seattle and is one of the top 5 rated quarterbacks in NFL history in Russell Wilson. And they're averaging 14.5 points a game, way beneath anybody else. Is there a way, Myles, that you think that Nathaniel Hackett can save his job over the last month and a half of this season?
I mean, I suppose it's always possible that the Broncos can get hot and, maybe they score more than 24 points in a game, which they just consistently score 16.
They have not scored 24 points in a game this year.
That's what I'm saying.
It's the craziest thing.
It is. It's 2022. I mean, what's the same thing we're saying about Zach Wilson? Like, how can you not score 24 points? Especially, talk about a good defense. I mean, that defense for the Broncos has been tremendous throughout the course of the season. Now, did they leave Devontae Adams wide open at the end of the game? Yes, they did. But by and large, it's not like that defense has not been playing winning football. But, I mean, at the same time, it's not all Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, when you have a quarterback in Russell Wilson who has been in the league 10 plus years, and you are in a situation that is, you have to keep the clock moving because the opponent has no timeouts, you keep the clock moving. What did we all see on Monday Night Football last week? We saw Taylor Heineke take a knee in the backfield so that the clock would keep moving on third down when they would ostensibly have to punt it away to the Eagles to make it harder for them to come back. They had no more timeouts. So passing that situation on 3rd and 10 absolutely makes sense. But if the play is not there, it's dead. Take the sack. Russell Wilson has to know that. You've been in the league long enough to know that. And whether it's Clint Kubiak in his ear, whether it's Nathaniel Hackett in his ear, it doesn't matter. You need to know that, and you have to take responsibility for that, and you have to make sure that in the situation, situational football matters, and you have to master that. And it just is ridiculous to me that Russell Wilson didn't do that on Sunday.
Bothersome, really bothersome. I know this is going to sound odd to say that the coach of a 7-3 team that had a bad day on Sunday, the New York Giants and Brian Daboll, that he is a guy who's really under the gun right now. But I'm going to say that for a couple of reasons. Number one, look, they lose to the Detroit Lions 31-18. And this is going to sound bizarre. There's no real shame in losing to the Detroit Lions right now. This is a very good offensive team, and the Giants are not a very good offensive team. But something happened in that game that not enough people are paying attention to, because no one really pays attention to this receiver on the Giants named Wan'Dale Robinson. So Wan'Dale Robinson, when I went to training camp this year, a young second-round pick from Kentucky, Smurfy guy, the Giants answer to Tyreek Hill. And he has come on the last 2 or 3 weeks, 9 catches, 100 yards on Sunday. And late in the game, he was lost to a torn ACL for the year. The Giants just don't have anybody to be competitive, to scare you. They're going to go into Dallas on Thanksgiving. And, man, Brian Daboll has got to pull 6 rabbits out of his hat for them to be competitive. And then they go Washington, Philadelphia, Washington. Washington's one of the hottest teams in the league. Philadelphia is 9-1. Dallas is one of the hottest teams in the league based on Sunday. Myles, I think the Giants might be in a little bit of trouble.
They could be. They certainly could be. And especially when you go against division opponents, and obviously Brian Daboll's a new head coach, but you know the teams in your division because you study them the most in the offseason because you're going to play them twice. So there are things that the Giants have probably picked up about the opponents, but at the same time, you're well enough into the season that the opponents know you too, and they at least know your personnel. So they have an understanding of what it is that you guys may or may not be able to do. And I think you're right. Losing Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be a huge, huge loss for them because who else on that offense besides from Saquon Barkley are you really thinking, man, that guy is going to keep up the defensive coordinator at night, trying to think of ways how to stop him? And there's just not that many guys there. So we'll see how they do. I mean, Brian Daboll's done a great job of coaching that team to get them to where they are right now. Now, I think that the Giants, I think we can say have a bright future. But as for the rest of the 2022 season, yeah, with how competitive that NFC East is right now, they may be in trouble.
Last man under pressure I want to bring up, and that's Brandon Staley. I'm a little hesitant to put him in this category, but I'm going to put him in there because basically the Chargers now, they've lost 3 out of 4. There's no shame in losing any single one of these games, especially with the injuries that they've had in LA. But they've lost to Seattle, San Francisco, and Kansas City. And I look ahead at their schedule. They definitely have the ability to play well down the stretch because their next 2 games are Arizona and Las Vegas. But then after that, it's Miami and Tennessee. And at some point, Brandon Staley and the Chargers. And look, I'm not gonna kill Brandon Staley for losing the game to Kansas City on a play that was the carbon copy of the play that beat them last year in overtime at SoFi. But, I mean, Travis Kelce after the game told me this is the exact same play we won last year on. And I looked it up, and sure enough, shallow cross to Travis Kelce, and he gets a step and a half on Derwin James, and he's off to the races, touchdown, game over. I'm not going to kill anybody for that. I think it's unfair to do that. But what I am saying is that, at some point, the Chargers have got to win some of these games that are really tough to win against really good opponents, or else you're going to say, they got a lot of talent on this team, and they just aren't playing to the level of their talent.
No, I agree with you, Peter. I mean, at a certain point, you've got to win the games. You have to be able to come through in those critical moments. You've got to stop Patrick Mahomes. I know that's tough. That is extremely tough to do. But you have talented guys on that team. Do you have all your guys? No. Nobody does, right? But you still have to execute. It can't always just be, they made more plays than we did. You've got to make more plays sometimes. And if you want to be considered with the big boys, you got to beat one of them. Those are teams that we all think are going to be competitive probably into January, right? The Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Kansas City Chiefs. But at the same time, you have to win some of these games in order to actually get yourself from in the hunt in that graphic that, all the networks start putting up around this time into actually being in the playoff picture. And at 5-5, they're not. They're on the outside looking in. So how are they going to be able to do that? Well, you got to critically execute in those critical situations.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.